Aquesta és molt professional.
Yo estoy en contra de la dictadura tecnológica, eso sí estoy en contra. Entonces, el futuro no es multimedia para mí, porque, primero, llevar la contraria es sanísimo, y a mí me encanta llevar la contraria. ¿Vale? Ahora que se dice que todo es multimedia, yo digo que no. En la red quería hablar también de este multimedia, de toda esta corriente bestial que es la convergencia. A mí me parece que es esencialmente imposible. Yo creo que es un grandísimo engaño. Y siento de verdad ser un poco brusco o contundente en mi afirmación. A mí me parece que hay muchísima gente que está aprovechándose de la debilidad de los medios para vender una cosa que es esencialmente imposible. Este es el modelo informativo que sostiene todo a día de hoy o hasta la fecha. Es el diario papel que sostiene todos los demás soportes. Si el diario papel cae, todos los demás soportes no se sostienen. Y desde el punto de vista de la redacción, del personal, del expertise, del dinero, o sea, este papel es el que está sosteniendo todo lo demás y se está muriendo. Es para dar noticias. Y si no da noticias, no es valioso. No es valioso. Un periódico te tiene que dar exclusivas, que no te las da otro.
El diseño no solo define lo que es el tipo de prensa, sino también unos valores que son los que la gente identifica con una cabecera, ¿no? Estos valores que normalmente no son exclusivos, porque digamos muchos los comparten los diarios, pero sí que son propios de cada medio y forman en su conjunto lo que podríamos decir como el ADN de una publicación. Creemos que si de alguna manera solo se apuesta por valores de Internet, lo que se ocurre es que se hace una buena web, puede ser, pero que cualquier otro podría copiarla, porque ya no tiene los valores del diario. Entonces, es muy importante por esto, digamos, o al menos así nosotros lo consideramos, siempre, digamos, mantener los valores. Porque eso, digamos, en un momento determinado te va a permitir que esa cabecera la puedas tú trasladar cuando aparezcan nuevos dispositivos, aparezcan nuevas plataformas. Tú podrás trasladar esa cabecera a estas otras plataformas porque mantienes el ADN. Es decir, no has de ir cada vez inventando una nueva marca, inventando que la gente te vaya descubriendo. Ya te conoce.
I was having some trouble figuring out how to tell the story, and a friend of mine pointed me towards Pixar's rules of storytelling. Once upon a time, there was blank. Every day, blank. One day, blank. Because of that, blank. Because of that, blank. Until finally, blank. So it's pretty simple, right? People read it everywhere. You know, they read it on the train. They read it in bed. They read it everywhere. Because of that, there's massive fragmentation and confusion in the industry. Until finally, responsive design. But now it's available all at once on screens everywhere, and there's just been an explosion of different devices and different ways to get the news. So what did the industry do when confronted with this explosion of devices? Really practically, it means the design just works. This is regardless of the device, regardless of the capabilities. Is it touch or is it no touch? What media can it support, and regardless of the context. You know, we're serving the same information no matter where you are, or no matter where the user is. And technically it means that we have three things in place. That means a flexible grid, scaling media, so scaling photos and video, and CSS media
We had
queries.
a newspaper called the Boston Globe, and we also had a website called boston.com, which was all of the news from the Boston Globe, but also had other things like celebrity news, cats that looked like Hitler, I mean, really all kinds of random things as well. It was much more than just the newspaper. So our first transformation was to take a very close look at who these readers were. And it was a very big group, something like 6 million people every month would come to boston.com. But when we looked really closely at who our readers were, we saw they actually were two groups. The first group, about 2/3 of the users of Boston.com, came many, many times a day for a very short amount of time. They would come, they would look for something to do, they would look for a quick headline, they would leave. They would come back an hour later, look for a very short time, and leave. The second group, a smaller group, would come and stay for a very long time. They would spend 25 or 30 minutes at a time, which is your entire life on the internet, to be 30 minutes on one website. And they would read very, very carefully, and they especially seemed to really love the stories from the Boston Globe. Inside our newsroom, we started thinking about these two readers in two different ways. So, of course, more transformations. One is to make it bigger. We concentrate a lot on making it work on a mobile device, and making it work on a tablet, and making it work on a desktop device. But really, things just keep getting bigger and bigger in addition to getting smaller and smaller. I mean, everyone has an enormous television hung on their wall now that they can look at. And that beautiful thing that Tito showed, the snowfall from the New York Times, if you imagine that as an experience on your entire wall as you zoom through those mountains, I mean, I think that could be a very, very powerful experience and a whole new way to tell stories.